Ragnarok came out this weekend. I finally saw the movie on Saturday. My review's a little late. I had my parents in town, we went to Universal for Halloween Horror Nights, and that's where I saw the movie, and I'm finally doing my review. So yeah, let's talk about Thor Ragnarok. This movie centers around Chris Hemsworth's Thor, who is basically pushed away from Asgard by this new villain named Hela. He's put on this alien planet where he basically has to do these barbarian challenges. And the kicker for this movie is that he loses his hammer, so he has to figure out a way to get back to Asgard in order to stop this goddess of death from destroying Asgard. Sounds pretty serious, right? Not so much. This is actually a really funny movie. I can say for what this movie is trying to achieve in terms of tone and style, it's a major success. This is actually one of the funniest Marvel movies that I have seen in a while. When I think of funny Marvel movies, I typically think of the first Avengers movie, even though that has a lot more tones going on in that movie. One of the tones is, it's actually really funny. There's a lot of references in that movie, and I think it's one of the top 3 for me. The second movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is also a really good reference movie. It's also really hilarious. Chris Pratt is awesome in that film. And Thor Ragnarok, I would say that is in my top 3. I don't know if it's second or third, maybe second. It's a really funny Marvel movie. You can tell that Marvel listened to the criticism for Thor and Thor: The Dark World. They understood that not a whole lot of people were interested in Thor, or maybe Thor just wasn't that catering like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So they decided to make a movie that pretty much stands on its own in terms of style. There is that familiar MCU Marvel humor that you typically see in these films, but there's also another angle of humor that I just wasn't really expecting. It was almost like the movie was very self-aware of itself. And like I said, what this movie was trying to do, it was a major success, and if you guys love Marvel and you want to see a really funny Marvel movie, check this movie out. I think they really used the idea of Thor being this pretentious, almost narcissistic god to kind of play into this humor. And whenever they released those Thor documentary clips that came out like a year ago, I was wondering if the movie was going to have the same tone. It does actually have the same tone. It might take place not really on Earth, but it's definitely the same humor that's conveyed in those documentary clips. Another thing that I want to mention is what really hindered the Thor movies in the past was you have like this really awesome setting like Asgard or in space. And Marvel was always putting Thor on Earth, which I understood because he needed to be on Earth to interact with the humans and so he could be in the Avengers. But by God, Darcy. But Darcy's not in this film. Not even Natalie Portman. This film is solely focused on Thor, the Thor characters, and that's something I really appreciated. They actually only go to Earth once in this film. The whole entire movie takes place in Asgard and on this alien planet, and I really appreciated that. I do have a couple negatives, and it does have to do with the humor. The humor is the most positive part of this movie, but it also hinders some of the scenes that are supposed to be really, really serious. There is stuff that happens to major Thor characters that you see throughout Thor and Thor: The Dark World, and when you see these things happen to them, they're almost kind of rushed, and you don't like get to take time in order to process, oh my god, this happened to this character. It automatically goes back to a scene where Thor is being funny, which I understood that was the movie's intent, but there is stuff that happens to these characters that I'm just like, Marvel, did you even care about these characters? Like, these were like characters that we've seen throughout this Thor franchise, and it's just like, wow, I guess you have a different motive here. And in terms of the villain Hela, I really enjoyed her in this movie. I think she has one of the most badass fight scenes in terms of Marvel villains. Thor is really good at making Marvel villains, minus Thor: The Dark World. I don't really know what they were doing there. The problem that I have with this character is that this new villain is introduced very poorly. Odin's just telling Thor like, hey, there's this being called Hela, you have to stop her, and she appears out of nowhere as if she like knew where Thor and Loki were at. I just thought it was very convenient. I don't know. I just think that they could have introduced her a little bit more successfully. But besides all that, I think she's a really intimidating character. She has a lot of badass fight scenes, and she breaks Thor's hammer. That causes a major character arc, and that's something I just wasn't expecting whatsoever. Loki in this movie, it's very hilarious, especially with the Hulk add-on into this film. That brotherly bond that he has with Thor really plays out in this film, but I also think that they kinda, I don't know, made Loki, I'm trying to find the wording here. They kind of made him the Jerry of this movie. You know, Jerry from Rick and Morty, where he's always getting kind of bullied a lot, and he's always getting teased, and he's always lashing out as well. Where we've already established that Loki is a very menacing villain. He's kind of the god of mischief. And some of those scenes really play out in terms of comedy, but I really think that they were kind of too comedic with Loki in this film. Just my opinion, really. It worked for the most part, but I definitely don't want to see that in Avengers Infinity War. I think Avengers Infinity War should be a more seriously toned movie. This was great for Thor, because Thor definitely needed this comedic aspect, but I don't want to see this throughout MCU films. Maybe side MCU films, but definitely like critical films like Avengers Infinity War. I think Avengers Infinity War needs to be serious. If they go with the Thor Ragnarok route, it's going to play out like Avengers Age of Ultron, and they need a serious film. They're dealing with Thanos here. In terms of Hulk in this film, I thought Hulk was actually really hilarious as well. There are more scenes with Hulk talking, and it's also really comedic because you also have this other comedic character, Thor, interacting with him. And it's also really comedic because it's not just Hulk who is having like this interaction with Thor. It's also Bruce Banner and his quirkiness. So I really enjoyed that and what they were able to do with the World War Hulk storyline. I wish the World War Hulk storyline was its own movie. I really do. I think they've wasted an opportunity here. But what they did for a little side story for Thor, I thought it worked, but I really wish they would have made a World War Hulk movie. I think that would have been amazing. But for the most part, Thor is a really funny film. I definitely put it in the top 3 of the most comedic Marvel films, and I definitely recommend it. I did have some negatives. I don't think it's the best Marvel film out there, but it's a really good movie. So yes, guys, that was my review to Thor Ragnarok. Comment down below what you thought of this movie if you saw it this weekend. Like the video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, gaming content, trailer reactions, and so on. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.